The call came at 3:17 p.m., right in the middle of dissecting a client's paralyzing indecision between eggshell white and alabaster for her Lake Shore Drive penthouse. My phone vibrated against the polished conference table, the sound harsh in the quiet, air-conditioned room. The screen flashed Westbrook Academy, a flicker of irritation, then a dull thud of inevitability. It was always about Liam. "Excuse me," I said, my voice calm. My client, Mrs. Delaney, waved a manicured hand, absorbed in the fan of fabric samples before her. I stepped into the hall, the glass wall cool against my back. Ryan Carter speaking. "Mrs. Carter, this is Vice Principal Higgins from Westbrook." The voice was tight, clipped. "You need to come to the school immediately. Liam has been involved in a significant altercation." "Is he hurt?" The question was automatic. My tone didn't waver. "He has some minor injuries. Another student is more visibly affected. The situation requires a parental presence. Now, I'll be there in 20 minutes. I ended the call, walked back into the conference room, and offered Mrs. Delaney a professional, apologetic smile. "A family emergency requires my immediate attention. Jessica will see you out and schedule our next meeting." "For what it's worth," I added, gathering my tablet and bag. "The alabaster. It won't fight the afternoon light." 22 minutes later, my heels clicked a swift, staccato rhythm on the polished marble of Westbrook Academy's administrative hallway. The place smelled of lemon polish and quiet money. Vice Principal Higgins's office door was ajar. Liam was slouched in a leather chair, one foot propped on the opposite knee. A dark bruise was blooming on his jawline, and his knuckles were scraped. He was scrolling through his phone, a faint smirk on his face. He didn't look up when I entered. Across from him, perched on the edge of a stiff-backed seat, was a girl. She was small, wiry, her posture a tight coil of defiance. A cut on her lip was swollen, and the sleeve of her uniform blouse was torn at the shoulder. Her dark hair was a messy ponytail, but it was her eyes that arrested me, that a fierce, stormy gray, locked on the wall behind Higgins's desk, refusing to look at anyone in the room. There was a raw, untamed edge to her that felt profoundly out of place in this sanitized environment. Something in my chest gave a strange, unwelcome tug. "Mrs. Carter," Higgins began, standing. He was a man built for mild disapproval. "Thank you for coming so promptly. This is a serious matter. Liam and Isabella here were involved in a physical fight in the quad during lunch." He started it. "The girl, Isabella," it said, her voice low and gravelly, but clear. She still didn't look at us. Liam finally deigned to glance up from his phone. He rolled his eyes, a gesture so familiar it had long since worn a groove in my patience. "She's a psychopath," came at me out of nowhere. I was defending myself. "Witnesses," Higgins interjected, "suggest Liam and his friends were verbally engaging with one of Isabella's friends." Things escalated. "Engaging?" Isabella snorted, finally turning her head. Her gaze swept over Liam with pure contempt, then flicked to me. For a split second, our eyes met. That tug in my chest became a sharp pull. I saw no fear in her, only a blazing, protective anger. They had Chloe cornered by the lockers, calling her names, spilling her books. "Your son," she said the word like it was a curse. Thought it was hilarious. It was a joke. Liam drawled, looking at me as if expecting me to understand the code. "God, Mom, relax. Everyone's so sensitive now." Mom, the word, usually a source of a vague, dutiful warmth, now felt cold on his lips. I looked at his face, the handsome features, so like Alexander's, the entitled set of his jaw. I felt nothing but a distant, professional need to resolve the situation. "What are the consequences, Vice Principal Higgins?" I asked, bypassing Liam entirely, given the severity and Liam's previous incidents of disruptive behavior. "We're looking at a 3-day suspension for both parties." "Both?" Liam exploded, sitting upright. She attacked me. Look at my face. You'll survive, I said, my voice flat. His mouth snapped shut, more in shock than obedience. I never spoke to him like that. I was always the mediator, the soother between his tempers and Alexander's indulgent dismissals. Does she have a guardian present? I asked Higgins, nodding toward Isabella. A staff member from the children's residence is on their way. I turned to the girl. Isabella, are you hurt anywhere else? She studied me, suspicion etched in every line of her small frame. I'm fine. She fights like a feral cat, Liam muttered, rubbing his jaw. Be quiet, Liam, I said, without raising my voice. The ice in it silenced him. I looked back at Higgins. We'll accept the suspension. I'll take Liam for a medical check to be thorough. Please ensure Isabella receives the same care. Outside the school, the Chicago wind cut across the parking lot. Liam stomped ahead of me, yanking open the passenger door of my Audi SUV and slamming it shut. I got in, started the engine. The silence was thick. Are you serious? He finally burst out. You're just going to let them suspend me? Dad's not going to like this. Your father is in Seattle. Liam, he can't fix this from there. I pulled out onto the street. We're going to urgent care. Get that jaw looked at. It's a bruise. I don't need a doctor. We're going. He crossed his arms, sinking down in the seat, radiating teenage fury. You always take their side. You didn't even hear what that little freak was saying. What was she saying? That I'm a spoiled brat. That my parents probably bought my way in. He shot me a glance. She's from a group home. Mom, she's trash. She's just jealous. Jealous, the word hung in the air. I thought of the girl's ripped sleeve, her defiant, unbroken eyes. Jealousy wasn't the emotion I'd seen. The urgent care was quiet for a Tuesday afternoon. The PA, a cheerful young woman, pronounced Liam's jaw a nice shiner but fine. As we walked out to the front desk to settle the paperwork, a voice called my name. Ryan. Ryan Carter? I turned. A man in a white coat, silver hair, kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses, was smiling at me. It took a moment to place him. Dr. Wilson, my obstetrician, delivered Liam. A professional warmth surfaced. Dr. Wilson. Hello. It's been years. Over a decade, he said, coming forward. He nodded at Liam, who was absorbed in his phone again. Can't be this young man. He's too old. This is my son, Liam. Minor schoolyard drama. I said, the script automatic. Liam, this is Dr. Wilson. He brought you into the world. Liam grunted, not looking up. Cool. Dr. Wilson's smile remained, but his eyes held a faint puzzlement as they scanned Liam's face. He looked back at me, the friendly curiosity of a doctor catching up with a former patient. Time flies. And how is your daughter doing? She must be what? 12? 13 now. I still remember. She gave us quite a scare, coming so early. Feisty little thing. Even then, the air in the sterile hallway seemed to solidify. I blinked. A small, polite frown touched my lips. My daughter? I'm afraid you're mistaken. Doctor, I only have Liam. I gestured loosely toward my son. You delivered him. A big, healthy boy. 9 pounds. 2 ounces. Dr. Wilson's genial expression froze. The puzzlement in his eyes deepened, then cleared into something else. Firm. Medical certainty. He shook his head. A slight, definitive movement. No. I'm quite certain. Ryan, I remember my patients, especially the complicated ones. You had a placental abruption. It was rather severe. We took you for an emergency C-section. He spoke gently, as if correcting a minor, understandable error. It was a girl, a little girl, just over 5 pounds. Small, but she had a strong cry. I remarked on it to your husband. He was very emotional, very focused on her being healthy. A cold wave, starting at the base of my spine, began to creep upward. My voice, when I found it, was still calm, Too calm. Dr. Wilson. That's impossible. I have one child. My son. Liam. Alexander. Why husband that was with me the entire time. He held Liam first. I could see it. The hazy, post-anesthesia memory. Alexander's tearful smile. The blue blanket. The whispered, "Our son." The doctor's face grew solemn. He took a half-step closer, lowering his voice. Liam, sensing a shift in the adult conversation, glanced up. "Bored." "Ryan," Dr. Wilson said, his voice low and earnest. "The surgery was difficult. You lost a lot of blood. You were in and out, but I was the attending surgeon. I handed that baby to the nurse. It was a girl. I'd staked my license on it." He paused, his brow furrowed as if trying to retrieve a distant, odd detail. "In fact, I remember there was some confusion afterward. The nurse came back, said the pediatrician wanted to run some additional tests right away, given the prematurity. Your husband was quite insistent on going with the baby. I was busy ensuring you were stable." He shook his head again, as if to clear the memory. "But the gender, that was never in question. Not in my operating room." The cold wave reached my brain, turning everything to static. The fluorescent lights hummed. Behind the front desk, a phone rang. Liam sighed loudly, shifting his weight. "You must be confusing me with another patient." I heard myself say. The words felt wooden, rehearsed. It was a long time ago. "Thank you, doctor. We should be going." Dr. Wilson looked at me for a long moment, seeing past the polished exterior, perhaps seeing the fissure spreading beneath. Concern washed over his features. "Of course," he said finally, stepping back. His tone was careful now. "My apologies if I've confused the matter. Take care, Ryan." I nodded. A sharp, mechanical motion. I turned, my hand finding Liam's elbow. My grip was tighter than I intended. "Ow, Mom, what the hell?" he complained, yanking his arm away. The car. Now, the drive home was a tunnel of silence. Liam, oblivious, plugged in his earbuds and stared out the window. I navigated the Chicago streets on autopilot. Dr. Wilson's words replaying in a relentless, terrifying loop. It was a girl. I'd staked my license on it. Your husband was quite insistent. Alexander, in the delivery room, holding my hand, his face pale with what I'd thought was fear for me. The blur of movement, the sudden urgency. His voice, strained. "They need to take him. Ryan, just for a few tests. I'll go with him. I'll stay with him." And then the deep, drugged sleep. Waking hours later to him, presenting a swaddled bundle. "Here's our perfect boy. Liam, our boy, demanding, entitled, with Alexander's smile and my father's stubbornness, a child who had never, not once, looked at me with the uncomplicated adoration I saw in other children's eyes. A child who took and offered back only disdain or a transactional affection. Feisty little thing. The gray, stormy eyes of the girl in the vice principal's office flashed in my mind. The defiance, the protective rage. That strange, magnetic pull. No, it was absurd. A doctor's faulty memory. The stress of the day. The shock of seeing Liam in trouble yet again. But the seed, sharp and corrosive, was planted. It whispered of the times Alexander had taken a newborn Liam for walks that lasted hours, of his strange, overprotective secrecy around Liam's early pediatric records, of how, when I'd been weak and recovering, he'd handled everything that the paperwork, the details, of how Liam, as he grew, seemed to resemble none of my family, only Alexander's, of the vague, persistent feeling that had haunted me for 13 years, a ghost of a connection that never quite solidified with the child in my house. We arrived home, the Lincoln Park townhouse gleaming under the evening security lights. Liam bolted from the car, heading straight for the kitchen, likely to raid the fridge and then disappear into his cave of a room. I stood in the grand foyer, my coat still on, listening to the silence of the perfect home I had designed. Every piece of furniture, Every shade of paint, chosen for harmony, for peace. It felt like a stage set. My phone buzzed in my purse. Alexander. I swiped to answer. Hey, sweetheart. His voice came, warm and smooth as aged whiskey. The sound that had once felt like coming home. Just landed. Heard from the school. What's this about a fight? Is my boy okay? My boy. He's fine, I said, walking slowly into the living room, my eyes drifting to a large, framed photo on the mantel. Alexander, me, and a 3-year-old Liam, all smiling on a beach. The perfect family. A bruise. He suspended for 3 days. Alexander sighed, a sound of fond exasperation. Ah, boys will be boys. Remember, I got into my share of scrapes. He'll grow out of it. Don't be too hard on him. Ryan. He needs his mom in his corner. The words, once a comforting alliance, now felt like a practice script. He needs his mom. Which mom? The other child was a girl, I said, testing the words. From the children's residence. She was defending a friend he was bullying. A pause on the line. Slight. Well, that's unfortunate. But you know how girls can exaggerate. And kids from those kinds of places, they can be aggressive, looking for attention. Liam probably just got caught in the middle. I closed my eyes. The seed split open, sending out a cold, creeping root. Alexander, I said, my voice even, devoid of the tremor I felt in my bones. Do you remember when Liam was born? Really remember it? Another pause, warmer, laced with concerned confusion. Of course I do. Honey, it was the scariest, best day of my life. Why? What's this about? You sound tense. I ran into Dr. Wilson today. At the clinic. Silence. Thick. Profound. I could almost hear the calculations spinning on the other end of the country. Wilson, the OB? That's a blast from the past. How is the old guy? He thought we had a daughter. The silence, this time, was a living thing. I waited. Then, a soft, incredulous laugh. What? That's Ryan. Honey, he's getting old. He delivered hundreds of babies. He's mixed you up with someone else. You had a tough delivery. You lost blood, maybe your memory. He was certain. Alexander. He said it was a girl. He remembered the surgery. He remembered you being insistent about going with the baby for tests. The laugh was gone. His voice cooled. Just a degree. The shift was subtle, masterful. I was insistent. Our baby was born early. In distress. I was terrified. I wanted the best care. Immediately. What is this really about? Is this about the fight? Are you upset and looking for, I don't know, something to blame? His tone softened, becoming the wounded partner. Ryan, we have a son. A beautiful, if sometimes difficult, son. Look at his baby pictures. Look at the videos. It's him. It's always been him. The rational argument, the appeal to evidence, the gentle gaslighting, woven with just enough plausible concern. It was a technique he was good at, one I'd never had reason to dissect before. You're right, I said, the words ash in my mouth. I'm tired. It's been a long day. The doctor must be confused. Of course he is, Alexander said, relief evident. The warmth flooded back into his voice. Get some rest. Sweetheart, don't let the school drama get to you. I'll be home Friday. We'll have a family weekend. Just the 3 of us. I'll talk to Liam. Just the 3 of us. I echoed. After I hung up, I climbed the stairs. I passed Liam's room, where the thump of bass music pulsed through the door. I went to the end of the hall, to the room that was now a home gym, but had once been a nursery. A single, empty cardboard box in the closet held the remnants of that other life. A tiny, yellow-stained hospital bracelet that read Baby Boy Carter. A few faded congratulations cards. A first photo, Liam red-faced and squalling. I picked up the photo. I searched the blotchy infant face for the girl Dr. Wilson remembered. I found nothing but a screaming stranger. Later, in the deep silence of the night, I stood in the doorway of Liam's room. He was asleep, one arm flung over his forehead, the bruise on his jaw a dark smudge in the moonlight. He looked younger, almost innocent. I felt nothing but a vast, hollow distance. The doctor's certainty was a hook in my mind, unshakable. Alexander's smooth deflection was a balm that no longer soothed, but burned. It was a girl, the gray-eyed girl's fierce, wounded face superimposed itself over my son's sleeping one. In that moment, the perfect, painstakingly constructed facade of my life that the successful career, the handsome husband, the beautiful home, the challenging son didn't just crack. A single, hairline fracture appeared, silent and catastrophic, running straight through the heart of everything I believed to be true. And I knew, with a chilling, absolute clarity, that I would tear it all down with my bare hands to find out what was on the other side. The Carter estate, Lincoln Park. The pristine silence of the kitchen was broken only by the sharp click of my heels on the marble floor. Sunlight streamed in, highlighting the dust motes dancing in the air. A lie, I thought. Everything in this house felt like a beautifully staged lie. Liam was at the island, shoveling cereal into his mouth, eyes glued to a gaming stream on his tablet. The sound of simulated gunfire was tinny through his earbuds. He didn't look up. 3-day suspension starts today, I said, my voice cutting through the electronic noise. I poured myself a black coffee, the ritual grounding me. Your phone, your laptop, your console. Now, that got his attention. He looked up, genuine shock on his face. What? No, Dad said. Your father isn't here. The school's disciplinary guidelines state suspension includes restricted access to recreational electronics. Hand them over. This is bull. He slammed his spoon down. Milk splattered on the polished stone. I'm the one who got jumped. What about that welfare freak? She probably doesn't even have a laptop to take away. Her name is Isabella, and her consequences are not my concern. Yours are. The items. Liam. On the counter. Now, the look he gave me was pure, unadulterated hatred. It was a familiar look, but this morning, I saw it for what it was. The contempt of a stranger who'd been caught exploiting a mark. He yanked out his earbuds, the sudden silence ringing. He slapped his phone and MacBook onto the counter, then stomped out of the room. A moment later, I heard the heavier thud of his gaming console hitting the floor upstairs. He'd get it back. Eventually. The rules, in Alexander's world, were always bendable. But for now, it was a line in the sand. I picked up his phone. It was locked. A photo of him and Alexander at a Cubs game last summer filled the screen. Both of them smiling identical. Easy smiles. I placed it in a drawer, a line in the sand. But the tide was already coming to wash it away. I had bigger trenches to dig. My first call was to Westbrook's administrative office. My voice was smooth, practiced, the concerned and efficient parent. Yes. Hello. This is Ryan Carter, Liam Carter's mother. Regarding the incident yesterday, yes. Quite. I'm reviewing his educational files for a meeting with his counselor, and I need a certified copy of his original birth certificate for a 529 plan adjustment. The one on file from his kindergarten enrollment seems to be a photocopy, and the financial institution is being particular. Could you direct me to the correct department at Northwestern Memorial to obtain a new one? His full records. Of course. The woman on the phone was helpful. She gave me a number, a department name. Vital records. .it sounded so definitive. An hour later, I was in my home office. The door locked. The other line rang. Northwestern Memorial Health Information Management. This is Sheila. Hello. Sheila, my name is Ryan Carter. I need to obtain a complete copy of the birth records for my son, Liam Alexander Carter. Date of birth, May 12th, 2013. I believe Dr. Edwin Wilson was the attending. Certainly. I'll need you to verify some information for me. I went through the ritual. My name, my social, Liam's social, the date, my address, the familiar dance of proving I was who I said I was, that he was who I said he was. Keyboard clacking on the other end. A long pause. Mrs. Carter. I'm showing a Liam Carterborn on that date. But the file is flagged. Flagged for restricted access. It requires additional authorization for a full record release. It looks like it was merged with a maternal file that has a confidentiality marker. ICE traced a path down my spine. A confidentiality marker? For a birth record? What does that mean? I'm not at liberty to say, ma'am. It sometimes happens with sensitive social or medical situations. You'll need to submit a notarized request form, along with a photo ID, and it will be reviewed by the legal department. The process can take 4 to 6 weeks. Sensitive social situations. A maternal file. My file. Who authorized the restriction? I asked. My voice perfectly level. I can't see that. I'm sorry. Would you like me to email you the forms? Please. I gave her my email. The one Alexander didn't have access to. The one I used for my design business. I hung up. 4 to 6 weeks. Legal review. A flag. Normal people's birth records weren't flagged. Normal people didn't have their obstetric files merged with their child's and hidden behind legal walls. Dr. Wilson wasn't confused. He was a roadblock someone had forgotten to remove. I opened a browser. I typed a name I'd pushed out of my mind for over a decade. Chloe. Alexander had mentioned an ex-girlfriend. A long time ago. A college flame that didn't work out. Dramatic. He'd said, with an eye roll, needy. I'd never asked for her last name. I'd never cared. A few searches on my private browser, cross-referencing with old university alumni pages Alexander was on, gave me a likely candidate, Chloe Benson. Her LinkedIn profile was sparse, but it listed her as a freelance event coordinator. There was a grainy photo, blonde, pretty in a faded, trying too hard way. Her last job listed was over 2 years ago. I picked up my phone again, not my shiny personal one, a burner I'd purchased yesterday afternoon on the way home from the clinic. Cash. I dialed a number from memory. A man answered on the second ring. Yeah, Leo. It's Ryan Carter. A beat of silence. Leo had done discreet work for my father's company years ago, before Dad retired. He was expensive, paranoid, and very, very good. Ryan. Long time. This line secure as a pay-as-you-go from 7-Eleven can be. Good enough. What do you need? I need a deep background. 2 subjects. Primary. Alexander Carter. My husband. Focus on the period 13 to 14 years ago. Financials. Communications if you can find a trail. Any recurring contacts. Especially female. Look for a Chloe Benson. Secondary subject. Her. I want to know everything. Where she lived. Her medical history. Financials. I want to know if their paths crossed. And when. I want to know if she had a child. Another. Longer silence. I could almost hear the gears turning. The dollar signs adding up. Leo never asked why. It was his best quality. Alexander's financials will be layered. It'll take time. And money. I have both. How fast? A week for a preliminary. 2 for anything solid. I'll need a retainer. The usual drop. You'll have it today. And Leo, absolute discretion. From everyone. The only person I talk to is you. Ryan. You know that. I ended the call. The first move was made. The board was set. Westbrook Academy. The next day, I needed to see her. The girl. Isabella. I couldn't request a meeting. It would raise flags. So I manufactured a reason. I went to the school under the guise of dropping off a forgotten textbook. For Liam, a flimsy excuse. But it got me past the front desk. I didn't go to the administration office. I walked the perimeter of the quad, where the fight had happened. Students milled about, a sea of navy blazers. I didn't see her. I found a bench near the athletic fields, pretending to check my phone. I waited 20 minutes. Then I saw her. She was alone. walking with a speed that suggested she had a destination and wanted no company. Her head was down, but her shoulders were set, tense. She was smaller than I had realized in the office. I stood, intercepting her path. Isabella. She stopped short, eyes flashing up. The wariness was immediate, a physical barrier. She took a step back. What do you want? Her voice was flat, hostile, up close. I could see the faint yellowing around the cut on her lip. The gray of her eyes was even stormier. I wanted to see if you were all right, I said. It was true, and it sounded hollow even to me. She barked a short, humorless laugh. Right, because you care so much. Your precious son's suspension not enough? You here to warn me off? She looked me up and down, taking in the tailored coat, the handbag. Her lip didn't quite curl, but the sentiment was there. Save it. I'm not scared of you. Or him. I'm not warning you off. The word stuck. What was I doing? I think you might be my daughter. A man in a coat told me so that IT was insane. I wanted to apologize for Liam's behavior. It was unacceptable. She stared at me as if I'd spoken in tongues. You're apologizing? For him? She shook her head, a tight, frustrated motion. He's a bully, a rich, spoiled bully who gets away with everything because his daddy writes checks. You don't get to apologize for that. You enable it. Each word was a needle, precise and painful because it was true. The version of me she saw the polished, wealthy enabler that was a fiction. But it was the fiction I'd lived inside for so long it had grown its own skin. You're right, I said simply. The admission through her. Her defensive posture faltered for a second. What? You're right. I have enabled it. I'm trying to understand why. I took a risk. A tiny one. The friend you were defending. Chloe. Is she okay? Isabella's eyes narrowed. Why? I'd like to make sure any medical expenses are covered. Quietly. No one needs to know. She doesn't need your money. Isabella spat, but some of the heat had bled out, replaced by confusion. She's fine. She's tough. We all are. We have to be. She looked past me, toward the school. Look, I have to go. Don't follow me. And tell your son if he comes near Chloe or any of my friends again. Next time I won't stop at his jaw. She moved to brush past me. An impulse, reckless and raw, made me speak. He's not my son. She froze, half-turned. The words hung in the crisp air between us, shocking me as much as they seemed to shock her. What did you say? I couldn't take it back. I couldn't explain it. Not here. Not now. Nothing. It's complicated. Just be careful. Isabella. She looked at me for a long, searching moment. The anger was still there, but beneath it, I saw a flicker of something else. A deep, old curiosity. Then it was gone, shuttered behind a wall of mistrust. Whatever, she muttered, and walked away, her stride quick and determined. My hands were trembling. I clenched them into fists, the nails digging into my palms. He's not my son, that I had said it out loud. To her, the world hadn't ended. It had just tilted on its axis, revealing a crack of terrible, possible light. The townhouse. Later, the envelope from Leo was in my secured mailbox by 5 p.m. Inside was a simple USB drive and a single sheet of paper with a phone number written on it. No names. I waited until night. Liam was in his room, presumably sulking. I plugged the drive into an old laptop that had never been connected to this house's network. The preliminary report was sparse, but it was a detonator. Subject A. Alexander Carter. Financial records from 13 years ago showed a series of structured cash withdrawals in the months leading up to Liam's birth, totaling just over $40,000. Unusual for a man who put everything on Amex for the points. In the month after the birth, a lump sum wire transfer of $75,000 was sent to an account listed under Chloe Benson's mother's name. The memo line, investment repayment, subject B, Chloe Benson. Medical records were harder. But Leo had found a billing record from a place called the Women's Wellness Center of Oakbrook, a low-income clinic. A Chloe Benson had given birth to a male infant. Full term, on May 10th, 2013, 2 days before Liam's before my recorded birth date. The father listed on the birth certificate was unknown. The address listed was a P.O. box. There was more. Phone records, obtained through means Leo didn't specify, showed frequent calls between Alexander's private cell and a prepaid number in the months before and after the births. The calls stopped abruptly 6 months after. And the kicker, the one that made the room swim, a property record, Alexander, through a shell LLC I'd never heard of, had purchased a small condo in Evanston in 2014. The tenant on the lease for the first 2 years? Chloe Benson. The LLC sold the condo in 2016 at a loss. I closed the laptop. The hum of the refrigerator was the only sound. $40,000 in cash. A payment to Chloe's mother. A baby boy, born 2 days before mine. A secret apartment. The pieces were there, jagged and ugly. They didn't yet form the complete, horrifying picture, but the outline was clear enough. Betrayal, calculation, a theft on a scale I could barely comprehend. My phone buzzed. Alexander. His face smiled up from the screen. I let it go to voicemail. A moment later, a text lit up the screen. Alexander. Long day. Miss you. Liam texting me that you're being a hard ass. Be gentle on him. Sweetheart. He's just a kid. Home Friday. Love you. I looked at the message. Love you. 3 letters that had become a lie 13 years in the making. I didn't type a response. I picked up the burner phone and dialed the number on the sheet of paper. Leo answered on the first ring. Yeah, it's me. I need you to find the child. The boy Chloe Benson gave birth to. I need to know where he is now. And I need everything you can get from that clinic. Nurses, doctors, janitors, anyone who was there in May of 2013. Find them. I'll pay whatever it takes. On it, was all Leo said. I ended the call. In the reflection of the dark computer screen, I saw a woman I barely recognized. Her eyes were dry. Her face was calm. Inside, a cold engine had turned over, and it was now idling, waiting for its purpose. I wasn't Ryan Carter, the wronged wife, anymore. I was investigator, a prosecutor, and soon I would be the judge. Chicago. 2 weeks later, Leo's information arrived in pieces, like fragments of a shattered mirror. Each one showed a different, distorted angle of the same ugly truth. A name, Chloe Benson. An address, a rundown apartment in Rogers Park. A job, part-time cashier at a discount supermarket. Her social media was a sad, curated gallery of faded glamour shots and inspirational quotes about weathering storms. The most recent photo, 6 months old, showed her at a cheap-looking bar, smiling with a thin, blonde woman whose face I recognized from a deeper background check. Melinda, the nurse who'd been assigned to my post-op recovery room. The caption, Soul Sisters, always there for each other. #blessed #true friendship my blood ran cold. It wasn't a coincidence. It was a network, a financial trail, regular deposits into Chloe's account from a shell corporation I'd never heard of, Apex Holdings. The amounts weren't huge, $1,500, sometimes $2,000 a month, but they were steady, lasting for 12 years. They stopped abruptly 6 months ago, around the time Alexander's big deal with the Japanese investors started to falter. Child support, disguised, a payoff, for silence, for a child. Mike Eld? The question was a constant, acid hum in the back of my skull. I stared at Liam across the breakfast island. He was scrolling on a new phone, a sleek, latest model. Alexander must have ordered it for him, a consolation prize for his suspension. Liam caught me looking. What? He snapped. Defensive. New phone? Dad got it for me. Said I deserved an upgrade. A smirk played on his lips. A direct challenge. Your rules don't matter. I see, I said, my voice neutral. I didn't ask for the old one back. The battle lines were being redrawn. And this wasn't the hill to die on. Not yet. Your father is coming home tonight. I know. We're gonna catch the Bulls game. Courtside seats. The smirk widened. He was trying to get a rise out of me. The old Ryan would have sighed, made a comment about homework, and let it go. The new Ryan just sipped her coffee. Have fun, I said, and walked away. I felt his confused stare on my back. The indifference was more disarming than any anger. My own investigation was moving, but hitting walls. The confidentiality flag on the hospital records was a dead end. Leo's contact in the system said the authorization code belonged to a hospital administrator who'd retired to Florida 3 years ago and had since passed away. A clean, untraceable ghost. The Shell Corporation, Apex Holdings, was a maze of offshore paperwork. Untouchable for now. I needed something harder, something undeniable, and I had a feeling I knew where to look. But the thought of it made my stomach clench. The Carter residence. That evening, Alexander's return was a performance. The front door swung open, and he filled the foyer with his presence. All expensive cologne and practiced charm. He dropped his suitcase and opened his arms. There are my two favorite people. Liam barreled into him for a rough, backslapping hug. Dad, you got the tickets? Would I let you down? Section 101. Baby. He ruffled Liam's hair, then looked at me over our son's shoulder. His smile was wide, warm, and utterly false. Hey, you. He approached me, his arms still open. I let him hug me. His embrace was firm, familiar. It felt like being wrapped in a lie. I gave his back a brief pat and stepped away. Long flight? I asked, moving toward the kitchen. The usual. Traffic was a beast from O'Hare. He followed me, his eyes scanning me, looking for cracks. You okay? You seem tired. It's been a week, I said, pouring him a scotch. Neat. The way he liked it. I handed it to him. Our fingers brushed. I didn't flinch. Liam told me about the phone thing. He said, his tone gently chiding. Sweetheart, a 3-day suspension is punishment enough. Taking his tech? It's a bit much. He's a teenage boy. He's a bully, I said, turning to face him, leaning against the counter. He cornered a girl, Alexander. He and his friends terrorized her. Another girl got hurt defending her. Where's the line? When do we stop making excuses for him? He sipped his drink, watching me. The warmth in his eyes cooled just a fraction. Boys test boundaries. He's got a big personality. Like I did. He'll grow out of it. You're being too hard on him. And on yourself. He reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind my ear. I forced myself not to recoil. Let's just have a nice family weekend. Okay, reset. I heard about a new steakhouse in the West Loop. The manipulation was so smooth. My legitimate concern was reframed as me being too hard, an overreaction that was ruining our family time. For 13 years, this dance had worked. Maybe, I said, offering a small, non-committal smile. How was Seattle? The deal closed? A shadow passed over his face. Hit a snag. The financing group is getting cold feet. It's nothing, just a delay. He took a larger swallow of scotch. But enough shop talk. Tell me about you. How's the Delaney project? He was changing the subject, steering us back to safe, shallow waters. I let him. I talked about fabrics and client indecision. I laughed in the right places. I was a masterclass in acting normal, but my mind was elsewhere. It was on a P.O. box in Oak Brook, on a cashier's smock, on a secret bank account. It was on the ghost of a baby girl. Later, after Liam had gone to bed, buzzing with the prospect of tomorrow's game, Alexander found me in the living room, staring at the gas fire. He sat beside me on the sofa. Close. I missed you, he murmured, his hand on my knee. I looked at his hand, The hand that had held mine in the delivery room. The hand that had signed the papers. The hand that had, perhaps, handed a baby to a nurse with specific instructions. Did you? I asked, my voice quiet. Of course I did. He leaned in, his breath smelling of scotch and mint. You know, with all this stress with Liam, maybe we need some us time. Remember us? His other hand came up to cup my cheek, his thumb stroking my jaw. It was a gesture that used to make me melt. Now, it made my skin crawl. I didn't move. I just looked into his eyes. These eyes I'd thought I loved. I searched for a flicker of the monster, for any sign of the man who could orchestrate such a theft. I saw only concern and desire and a profound, calculated familiarity. I remember. I whispered. He kissed me. It was gentle at first, then insistent. My body responded on autopilot, a 13-year habit, but my mind was screaming. I broke the kiss, pulling back just an inch. I'm sorry, I said, forcing a weary smile. I'm just really tired. The week caught up with me. Rain check. Disappointment flashed in his eyes, quickly masked by understanding. Of course. Long week for both of us. He squeezed my knee and stood. Get some sleep. I'll take the couch in the study. Got some emails to catch up on anyway. He left the room. I sat there, wiping my mouth with the back of my hand. I listened to his footsteps fade, then the soft click of the study door closing. Got some emails or a call to Chloe Benson, a transfer to Apex Holdings, a check on his investment. I waited 10 minutes in the silent dark. Then I got up. I moved through the house like a ghost, to the locked door of his study. I pressed my ear to the cool wood. Nothing. No sound of typing. No murmur of a call. I had a choice. I could walk away, go upstairs, lie in her bed, and continue the charade while I gathered more evidence from a distance. Or I could take the risk. The burner phone was upstairs. Leo had sent one final piece of information today, before Alexander came home. A number, for a guy, the kind of guy who could get things, not just information, things, like a compact, high-quality, voice-activated recorder, the kind that could sync to an app on a secured phone, the kind that was sitting in my nightstand drawer right now. I had planned to plan it tomorrow, when Alexander was at the game with Liam, but he was in his study now, alone, and I was right here. I went upstairs. I retrieved the tiny device, no bigger than a shirt button. My heart was a hammer against my ribs, but my hands were steady. I went back downstairs, to the kitchen. I took a glass, filled it with water, my alibi, if I needed one. I walked to the study door. I took a deep, silent breath. Then I knocked softly. Come in. I opened the door. He was at his desk, the large, imposing mahogany one his father had given him. His laptop was open, but the screen was dark. He looked up, surprised. Couldn't sleep either? He asked, smiling. Thirsty, I said, holding up the glass. I walked over to the bookshelf behind his desk, pretending to scan the titles. I was thinking about the Delaney project. I might use that reclaimed oak we saw in Napa for the accent wall. What do you think? I let my hand trail along the shelf, as if thinking, sounds great. Honey, you're the artist. His voice was distracted. He was watching me. My fingers found the edge of the shelf, just below a row of thick, unread business books. The perfect spot, out of direct sight, but angled toward the desk. I pressed the tiny recorder against the wood. It had an adhesive back. It stuck with a faint click that sounded deafening to me. I turned, leaning against the shelf, taking a sip of water. You're sure you're okay? With the Seattle deal? He sighed, running a hand through his hair. It was a gesture of genuine stress. It's a mess. The lead investor is getting spooked. Some rumors about our liquidity. He looked at me, his eyes suddenly sharp. You haven't talked to your father about any of this, have you? About maybe helping? There it was. The real anxiety. Not the deal. The deal's failure meant he couldn't access the capital he needed. My father's money. My family's connections, they were the ultimate backstop he'd married into. The well, he was trying to pump without appearing desperate. Of course not. I said, smoothly, you told me you had it under control. I trust you. The lie flowed easily. He seemed to relax. Just a fraction. Good. I do. It's just a hiccup. He stood up, came around the desk. He put his hands on my shoulders. We're a team. Ryan, we'll get through this. Like we always do. I looked up at him. At this handsome stranger I'd shared a bed and a life with. Like we always do. I echoed. I left him then, closing the study door softly behind me. Back in my bedroom, I locked the door. I opened the app on the burner phone. A single red dot pulsed on the screen. Recording. I put in my earbuds. I heard the faint rustle of fabric, the creak of his chair, then the soft, electronic beep of a phone being unlocked. A moment of silence. Then, the sound of a number being dialed. It rang twice. A woman's voice answered. Sleepy. Annoyed. Alex, do you know what time it is? Chloe, I know. I'm sorry. Alexander's voice was low, intimate, a voice I hadn't heard in years. I just needed to hear your voice. You're home? Her tone softened, became teasing. Did you tell the Ice Queen about us yet? A low chuckle. Not yet. Soon. The timing has to be right. The Seattle deal is on shaky ground. If it falls through, I need to be strategic. Strategic. Always strategic. A sigh. What about Liam? Did you see him? Is he okay? That bitch suspended him. My blood turned to ice. That bitch. He didn't correct her. He's fine. A little bruised ego. He's tough. Like his mom. The affection in his voice was real. It was a knife in my gut. Listen, the payments. I might be a little short this month. Things are tight until this deal is finalized. Alex, come on. My rent is due. You said after he turned 13, things would be easier. You said we could be more of a family. And we will. I promise. Just a little longer. Ryan's been off lately, asking weird questions. I need to handle her carefully. Handle her? Just take what's yours and leave. You're entitled to half of everything, aren't you? After putting up with her for this long? Entitled. The word hung in the digital air between my earbuds. It's not that simple. Her family's money is tied up in trusts. I need her compliant, not combative. Just be patient. Chloe, for us, for Liam, I'm always patient. That's my problem. Her voice was bitter now. 13 years. Alex, I've been patient. I know. Baby. I know. And it's almost over. I'll make it up to you. Both of you. Now, tell me about your day. I pulled the earbuds out. The voices stopped. I sat in the dark. The phone a cold, hard rectangle in my hand. There it was. The confirmation. In their own voices. Not just an affair. A partnership. A plan. 13 years Liam was theirs. Ours. And I was the Ice Queen. The obstacle. The bank account. I felt no rage. No heartbreak. Those were fires that had burned out, leaving only cold, hard certainty. I looked at the pulsing red dot on the phone. It was a heartbeat. The heartbeat of my new reality. I had my proof. Now, I needed my daughter. Carter residence. 1 week later, the recording was a stone in my pocket. Cold, heavy, and real. I listened to it once more, in the locked silence of my car, just to let the icy fury settle into something usable, something sharp. Alexander's voice, intimate and deceitful. Chloe's, petulant and entitled. That bitch, the Ice Queen, her family's money. I had more now. Leo had delivered a second file. It contained the deed to the Evanston condo, a list of the monthly payments, and a grainy, long-lens photo of Alexander, a younger Liam. He couldn't have been more than 8. And a blonde woman, Chloe, a suburban playground. They were eating ice cream. Liam was smiling. A genuine, unguarded smile I rarely saw at home. The date stamp was 5 years ago, a secret family outing. I took a deep breath, smoothing my hands over the steering wheel. The fury was there, a white-hot core, but I encased it in layers of glacial calm. Emotion was a liability now. I was a general assessing a battlefield. Inside, the house was quiet. Liam was at a friend's house. Alexander was in his study. The door closed. I could hear the low murmur of a conference call. I walked to the kitchen, poured 2 fingers of his best scotch into a crystal tumbler, and carried it to the study door. I didn't knock. I turned the knob and walked in. He was at his desk, facing a large monitor, a headset on. We'll have to restructure the equity tranche, but I'm confident the Koreans will come back to the table if we. He saw me, his sentence trailing off. He held up a finger. Gentlemen, can you excuse me for one moment? Something's come up on the home front. He muted himself, took off the headset. His smile was tight, impatient. Ryan, I'm in the middle of something. I know. I placed the scotch on the desk in front of him. I sat in the leather chair opposite him, crossing my legs. This won't take long. He glanced at the glass, then back at me. Wariness crept into his eyes. Okay, what is it? I want to talk about Liam. My voice was calm, conversational. He relaxed slightly, picking up the glass. What about him? The suspension is over. He's learned his lesson. Has he? I tilted my head. I'm not so sure. I think there's a deeper issue. One we've been avoiding. What issue? The impatience was back. His sense of entitlement. His complete lack of respect. For me. For his teachers. For anyone he sees as beneath him. I met his gaze. Steady. It's pathological. Alexander. And we enabled it. He took a sip, setting the glass down with a soft clink. He's a confident kid. That's not a bad thing. The world rewards confidence. This isn't confidence. It's cruelty. He's a bully. And bullies aren't born. They're made, usually by parents who look the other way. I leaned forward, just a fraction, or by a parent who whispers one thing in his ear at home and undermines the other parent's authority. His expression hardened. Is that what you think? That I'm undermining you? Aren't you? The new phone. The courtside tickets, right after a suspension for fighting. Every time I set a boundary, you buy him a new one to leap over. I kept my tone analytical, not accusatory. It sends a message that my rules are optional, that my opinions are negligible. He stared at me. The charming mask was slipping, revealing the cold strategist underneath. My relationship with my son is separate from your relationship with him. He needs a father, Ryan, not another nanny trying to control his every move. The jab was calculated. Nanny, the word hung between us. He'd never said it out loud before, but I'd always felt it, that the unspoken belief that my role was custodial, not maternal. I smiled, a thin, cold curve of my lips. Is that what I am? The nanny? I let the question linger. Tell me, Alexander, as his father, what do you think is at the root of this? This anger he has, especially toward me? He shifted in his chair, uncomfortable with the directness. He's a teenager. He's pushing back. It's what they do. No, I said softly. It's more than that. It's a resentment, a deep-seated dislike, as if I'm an obstacle to something he wants, something he feels entitled to. I paused, watching his face. What is that, do you think? A flicker of something that alarm. In his eyes, he covered it with a dismissive wave. You're overthinking it. He's a kid. He wants freedom. Less homework. A later curfew. The usual. Maybe. I conceded, leaning back. I was circling the real subject, letting him feel the pressure before the strike. Or maybe he's confused about where his loyalties should lie. Maybe he's getting conflicting messages about what family means. His phone, face down on the desk, vibrated. He glanced at it, a quick, almost involuntary, flick of his eyes. I saw the tension in his jaw. You should get that, I said. My voice like silk. It might be important. His head snapped up. Our eyes locked. In that moment, the veneer of our marriage, the 13-year performance, dissolved into nothing. He knew I knew. Not everything. Perhaps. But enough. The carefully constructed fiction had a crack, and I was staring straight through it. Who is she? Alexander? I asked, my voice still quiet, deadly calm. The woman you call when you think I'm asleep. The one you promise a future to. The one you complain to about the Ice Queen. I used his term. Saw him flinch. His face went pale, then flushed with anger. You've been spying on me. I've been listening. I corrected. You left the door open, metaphorically and literally. I nodded toward the phone. Is that her now? Chloe? The name, dropped so casually, was a detonation. All the color drained from his face. He stood up, his chair scraping back. You have no idea what you're talking about. You're paranoid, stressed. This is about Liam's suspension, and you're spiraling. Sit down. Alexander. The command in my voice was new, absolute. He hesitated, then slowly sank back into his chair. I'm not paranoid. I'm informed. I know about Chloe Benson. I know about the condo in Evanston. I know about the monthly payments from Apex Holdings. A very generous child support arrangement. Considering you've had your son living under this roof, eating my food, spending my family's money. For 13 years, he was silent, his mind racing behind his eyes. I could see him recalculating, searching for an angle, a lie that would stick. It's not what you think. He began, the old, smooth tone trying to reassert itself. She was vulnerable. I made a mistake. A long time ago. Liam is my responsibility. Yes, but I couldn't just abandon her. Or the boy. I've been trying to do the right thing. To provide. I didn't want to hurt you. Stop. The word cut through his performance. Just stop. You didn't make a mistake. You built a second family. You lied to me every day for 13 years. You used me, and you used my name, and you used my money to fund it all. I stood up now, placing my palms on his desk, leaning forward. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to move out. Today. You'll tell Liam you have an extended business trip. You will not contact him to undermine me. You will not whisper in his ear. You will go to your club. Or to Chloe. I don't care. But you will leave this house. He stared at me, a mixture of shock and dawning fury. You're kicking me out? This is my home. It's a house my trust fund paid for. The deed is in my name. Your name is on nothing of real value. Alexander. You know that. The cars, the boats, the investment portfolio, all tied up in legal structures my father's lawyers designed to protect me. I let that sink in. The great provider, the master manipulator, was a tenant. You'll stay away, and you'll think very, very carefully about what you want the next phase of your life to look like, because I have evidence of the fraud, of the embezzlement from the joint accounts to fund Apex, of the intent to deceive. I have the recording of you and your partner discussing your plans. I will bury you. The mask was gone. What was left was raw, ugly hatred. You bitch. He hissed, the word a venomous whisper. After everything I've given you, a life, a family, you gave me a lie, I said, straightening up, and you stole a daughter. We'll get to that part later. For now, get out. Your call is waiting. I glanced at the still vibrating phone. He didn't move for a long moment, his chest heaving. Then, with a violent sweep of his arm, he sent the crystal tumbler flying. It shattered against the wall, scotch and glass spraying across the Persian rug. He stood, grabbed his laptop and phone, and strode past me without another word. I listened to his footsteps thunder up the stairs, to the violent sounds of drawers opening and closing. 10 minutes later, he came back down, a suitcase in hand. He didn't look at me. He'll never forgive you for this, he said, his voice low and guttural. I'm not the one who needs his forgiveness. I replied. The front door slammed. The house shuddered into silence, broken only by the drip of scotch from the ruined rug. I walked to the window, pulling back the curtain just enough to see his black Mercedes SUV roar out of the driveway. Phase 1 was complete. Now for Phase 2, Rogers Park. The next day, the discount supermarket was a bleak, fluorescent lit box. The air smelled of bleach and stale bread. I found her at Register 4. Chloe Benson. In person, she looked older than her photos. Harder. The blonde hair was brassy, pulled into a messy ponytail. Her nails were chipped. Her supermarket smock wrinkled. She was ringing up an elderly woman with a practiced, disinterested slowness. I waited until her line was empty. I picked up a pack of gum from a display and placed it on the conveyor. Just this, I said. She didn't look up, her fingers punching the price into the register. 62 cents. I slid a $100 bill across the counter. That got her attention. She glanced at the money, then up at my face. Recognition was slow, then dawning, then filled with pure, unadulterated terror. She knew exactly who I was. The blood drained from her face, leaving her makeup stark and garish. I don't have change for this, she stammered, her eyes darting to the manager's office. Keep it, I said, my voice low and even. I'd like to talk. Outside, on your break, or now. Your choice. Her throat worked. She looked like a rabbit caught in headlights. I can't. I'm working. Tell your manager you're sick. Or I can wait. But we are going to talk. Chloe. 5 minutes later, she emerged from a side door, shrugging into a cheap puffer jacket. She looked small, hunched against the Chicago wind whipping across the parking lot. She lit a cigarette with trembling hands. What do you want? She asked, not looking at me. The truth. All of it. She barked a shaky laugh. You got some nerve. Coming here. To my job. I have more than nerve. I have evidence. Financial records. Property records. A recording of you and Alexander discussing your plans for my money. I watched her flinch with each word. I'm not here to scream at you. Chloe, I'm not here to cause a scene. I'm here to make you an offer. She finally looked at me, her eyes red-rimmed and suspicious. An offer? You tell me everything. From the beginning. How it happened. Who helped you at the hospital. Where my daughter went. You give me a signed, notarized statement. And in return, I won't press charges against you for conspiracy, fraud, and whatever else my lawyers can think of. Her bravado was crumbling, replaced by a desperate fear. He said you'd never find out. He said it was foolproof. He was wrong. Where is she? Chloe? The baby girl. What did you do with her? Tears spilled over, cutting tracks through her foundation. I didn't do anything. It was all him. Alex's plan. He was so scared. He'd gotten me pregnant, and you were pregnant, and your family, the money, he couldn't lose you. But he wanted our son. His son. He said a boy needed his father. She was babbling now, the words tumbling out in a toxic rush. He had a nurse, Melinda. She owed him money or something. He paid her. When you went into labor early, it was chaos. You were out of it. He took the babies. He said it was just for tests. He switched the bracelets. He gave me your little girl, wrapped in a blanket, told me to take her to the crisis center, to leave her, said it was better for her, that she'd be adopted by a nice family. He took my boy, our Liam. She was sobbing openly now. I just wanted to be with him. I loved him. He promised we'd be together when the time was right. He promised. Her words were a physical blow, but I stood rigid, absorbing them. The cold, clinical horror of it, the calculated trade, a son for a daughter, a heir for a burden discarded. The crisis center, I said, my voice unnaturally steady. Which one? She shook her head, wiping her nose with the back of her hand. I don't know. Someplace on the south side. I drove there. I left her on the steps. It was so cold. I heard her crying. She dissolved into heaving sobs. I felt nothing for her. No pity, just a profound, chilling contempt. You left a newborn on the steps of a building in January. He made me. He said it was the only way. He said he'd take care of me, of us. She was pleading now, as if I were the judge and jury. And he did. For a while. The apartment. The money. But then it got less, and he kept saying soon. Soon, and now it's gone. The money stopped. He says his deal is bad. I'm behind on rent. I'm nothing. I reached into my purse. Not for a tissue, but for a business card. My lawyer's card. On the back, I had written a number. A burner number. Here, I said, holding it out. She stared at it like it was a snake. This is my lawyer. You will call him. Today. You will tell him everything you just told me. He will have a document for you to sign. You will also provide a DNA sample to establish you are Liam's biological mother. Once you do that, and once I have verified the information about my daughter, I will ensure that Alexander is held accountable for every penny he ever promised you. You will not go to jail, but you will never see another cent from him, or from me, and you will stay away from Liam, unless and until I decide otherwise. Do you understand? She nodded, a jerky, broken movement, and took the card. If you warn Alexander, if you try to run, if you lie to my lawyer, I continued, my voice dropping to a whisper, I will use every resource at my disposal to destroy you. You will wish you'd never heard the name Carter. Do we have an understanding? She nodded again, fresh tears falling. Yes. I turned and walked back to my car. I didn't look back. My hands were steady as I started the engine. But in the rearview mirror, I saw her slide to the ground, her face in her hands, the card clutched in her fist. I had the confession. Now, I needed to find the one person who mattered, the girl on the steps, my daughter, Isabella, Carter residence. 2 days later, the house felt different with Alexander gone. The silence wasn't tense, it was spacious. It was a clean, empty canvas. Liam was a storm cloud moving through it, his confusion curdling into a sullen, simmering anger directed solely at me. Where is he? He demanded at breakfast. For the third morning in a row, he hadn't touched the eggs I'd made. Seattle, I said, not looking up from my tablet where I was reviewing a design schematic. The deal is taking longer than expected. He'll be back when it's done. He's not answering my texts. Not really. Just one-word stuff. Busy. Later. Liam's voice wavered between accusation and a fear he'd never admit. What did you do? Did you make him leave? I looked at him then. The boy.no. The young man who shared none of my blood. His father's face. His biological mother's petulant mouth. A stranger in my kitchen. The last tendrils of a 13-year habit. The impulse to soothe and reassure. Withered and died. I didn't make him do anything. Liam. Adults make their own choices. He's dealing with a business crisis. It requires his full attention. I took a sip of coffee. Speaking of attention, your principal called. Your grades in algebra and history are slipping drastically. The suspension didn't help. You have a mountain of make-up work. He stared at me, incredulous. Dad's gone. And you're talking about homework? Life doesn't stop because you're in a mood. Your education is a condition of your enrollment at Westbrook. I suggest you focus on it. I stood, gathering my things. I'll be out this afternoon. There's food in the fridge if you get hungry. Where are you going? The question was a challenge. I have a site visit, then a meeting with the board of a community foundation. The lie was smooth. The truth was, I had a 2 p.m. appointment with my lawyer, followed by a 4 p.m. drop-off at a specific location. Michaels Braxton, attorneys at law. My lawyer, David Braxton, was a man in his 60s with the quiet, ruthless efficiency of a master chess player. My father's chess player. He'd set up the trusts. He'd seen Alexander's prenup. He'd never liked him. The statement from Chloe Benson is signed, notarized, and locked in our vault, David said, steepling his fingers. The DNA test is expedited. We'll have confirmation of maternity by the end of the week. It's a formality, but it bolts the door shut. He slid a folder across his immense desk. Regarding Mr. Carter's business, the North Star Capital deal, our contacts in Seoul have been persuaded to reevaluate. The news of their lead partner's sudden reservations should hit Alexander's inbox right about now. I didn't open the folder. And the other matter? The community outreach. David allowed himself a small, grim smile. The West Side Community Center is thrilled to accept a generous, last-minute donation from the anonymous Carter Family Foundation. It comes with only one stipulation, that they host a corporate day of service this Saturday and extend an invitation specifically to the partners of Carter Global Ventures, a chance for them to give back and improve their public image during a sensitive time. Alexander will feel pressured to attend. It's good PR. Perfect, I said. And the other participant? The girl from the children's residence who volunteers there? Isabella Martinez. She's on the Saturday shift. She helps in the after-school program. The director says she's their best worker with the younger kids. Tough, but fair. David's eyes were kind. For a moment, Ryan, are you sure about this? This is a direct approach. I'm done with shadows. David, I have the truth. Now I need to see it. I need her to see me. West Side Community Center. Saturday. The community center was a bustling, noisy contrast to the sterile quiet of my world. The air smelled of gym socks, lanjia chingjieji, and microwave popcorn. Kids ran in the halls, their shouts echoing off cinderblock walls. Alexander looked like a man who'd rather be anywhere else. He was wearing a monogrammed dress shirt with the sleeves rolled up, a concession to casual that only highlighted how out of place he was. He'd brought Liam, who stood beside him wearing expensive headphones and a scowl that could curdle milk. The corporate day of service had attracted a handful of other junior partners and their reluctant offspring. They were supposed to be painting a mural in the rec room. I watched from the observation window of the director's office. I'd arrived early, made my donation, and asked to observe quietly. He's not happy. The director, a no-nonsense woman named Gloria, said beside me, "He'll live." I replied, my eyes scanning the room below. Then I saw her, Isabella. She was shepherding a group of smaller children toward the art tables, patiently prying a pot of magenta paint from a determined 5-year-old's grip. "Nah, Miguel, the sky goes up there, not on Jamal's head. Here, use the blue." Her voice was firm, but not unkind. She wore faded jeans and a worn hoodie, her dark hair in a practical braid. She moved with a wiry grace, completely at home in the controlled chaos. My breath caught. This was her, not the feral fighter in the principal's office, but a protector, a leader, my daughter. Downstairs, Alexander was doing a terrible job of pretending to care. He held a paintbrush like a scalpel, making tiny, precise strokes on the very edge of the mural while talking loudly on his Bluetooth headset. No, I told them, unless they restructure the debt. The whole thing is a non-starter. Yes, even the Koreans are spooked now. Liam had taken a spot in the corner, his headphones on, blatantly playing a game on his phone. He'd been handed a roller and a tray of sky blue paint. He ignored it. Isabella finished settling the kids and walked over to the supply table to get more paper towels. Her path took her right past Liam. She didn't look at him, but her shoulders tightened almost imperceptibly as she passed Alexander. He, distracted by his call, stepped back without looking, bumping into her. "Watch it," he snapped, covering the phone's mic. Isabella stumbled, catching herself on a table. She turned, and for the first time, her eyes, those storm gray eyes that met his directly. The air in the room seemed to change. "You walked into me," she said, her voice flat, not confrontational, just a statement of fact. Alexander, annoyed at the interruption, glared at her. Then the glare faltered. He stared. His eyes flicked over her face, a crease forming between his brows. Something in her expression, the set of her jaw, the directness of her gaze, it was like a distant, discordant note, unplaceable, but unsettling. "Do I know you?" he asked, his voice losing its bluster for a moment. "Doubt it," she said, turning to grab the paper towels. "I don't usually hang out with people who talk on the phone in a room full of kids trying to paint." She walked away, back to her group. Alexander stood there, staring after her, the forgotten voice on the phone squawking in his ear. Liam, noticing the exchange, pulled off one headphone. "What's her problem?" he muttered. "Nothing," Alexander said, shaking his head as if to clear it. He returned to his call, but his movements were agitated now. Forget it. Where were we? The liquidity, ratios. The plan was in motion. But the next part wasn't in any plan. Isabella, after helping Miguel correct his sky, looked up. Her gaze swept the room and landed on the observation window. On me. There was no surprise in her face, just a long, steady, evaluating look. She'd known I was here. Of course she had. She was too smart, too aware, not to sense the strings being pulled. She gave me a single, slow nod. It wasn't friendly. It wasn't hostile. It was an acknowledgement. "I see you." My heart hammered against my ribs. This was the first real, silent communication between us. A thread, fragile as a spider's silk, pulled taut across the noisy room. Later, as the day of service was winding down, I made my move. I left the office and walked downstairs, blending with a group of parents arriving to pick up kids. I positioned myself near the exit as Alexander and a visibly bored Liam prepared to leave. Isabella was cleaning paintbrushes at a sink in the corner. I caught her eye and gave a slight jerk of my head toward the hallway. She hesitated, then said something to a little girl, clinging to her leg, and walked over. "You're stalking me now?" she asked, her arms crossed, but the venom from our first meeting was diluted with curiosity. "I donated some supplies," I said, nodding to a stack of new art boxes. "I was observing. You're good with them." She shrugged. "They're easy. They don't pretend to be something they're not." Her eyes cut toward the door where Alexander was laughing too loudly at something a partner said. "Him, the guy on the phone. He's your husband, right? Liam's dad. Yes. He's an asshole." A faint, real smile touched my lips. "Yes, he is." She studied me. "Why are you here? Really, this isn't your scene. The clothes, the watch, you stick out like a diamond in a gravel pit. I needed to see something," I said honestly, "and I needed to give you this." I reached into my bag and pulled out a plain, unmarked envelope. It wasn't thick. It contained a new, high-quality prepaid phone, the number and my burner number already programmed in, along with $500 in cash. No strings, just resources. She looked at the envelope but didn't take it. "What's this? More guilt money?" "It's a tool," I said, holding her gaze, "and a peace offering. The phone is clean, untraceable. The cash is for whatever you need. Food, clothes, a lock for your locker at the residence. No questions asked." Why? The word was simple, loaded with a lifetime of distrust. "Because everyone deserves a safety net," I said, "and because I think you and I might be able to help each other. You have information about Liam, about the environment at school. I have resources. Maybe we can find a way to make things harder for the bullies and easier for the kids they pick on." It was a partial truth, wrapped in a plausible motive. She was silent for a long time, her sharp eyes searching mine for the con. Finally, she took the envelope, tucking it quickly into the pocket of her hoodie. "I'm not your informant. I'm not asking you to be. I'm offering an alliance. Think about it." I saw Alexander and Liam heading for the door. "I have to go." As I turned, she spoke again, her voice lower. "He looked at me, your husband, like he'd seen a ghost." I paused. "What did you see when you looked at him?" Her answer was immediate, chilling in its clarity. A liar, the kind who's so good at it, he almost believes it himself. She met my eyes. Are you that kind? Too? No, I said, the word feeling like a vow. Not anymore. I walked away, joining the stream of people leaving. In the parking lot, I saw Alexander holding the door of his SUV open for Liam. He glanced back at the community center doors, his face troubled. The ghost had unsettled him. Good. I got into my own car. My hands were steady. The envelope was delivered. The connection, however tenuous, was made. Alexander was off balance. Liam was adrift. And my daughter, my fierce, smart, surviving daughter, had $500 and a clean phone in her pocket. The pawns were in motion. The next move was mine. Westbrook Academy, annual gala fundraiser. The Westbrook Grand Ballroom was a glittering monument to privilege. Crystal chandeliers dripped light onto linen-draped tables. The air hummed with the low, moneyed murmur of Chicago's elite, the clink of fine china, and the smooth sounds of a jazz quartet. It was the school's biggest social and fundraising event of the year, the place where deals were whispered, alliances affirmed, and social standing was put on display. Alexander was in his element. He'd arrived separately, of course, but he'd made a point of seeking me out earlier. His public smile a perfect, tense mask. Let's be civilized tonight, Ryan. For the school's sake, for Liam's. His hand on my arm was a warning, not a touch. Of course, I'd replied, my own smile cool and detached. Civility above all. Liam was at a table with his friends, preening in a new suit Alexander had undoubtedly bought him. He shot me occasional glares, still playing the aggrieved party. He'd been texting Alexander constantly, and from the few smug looks he gave me, I knew his father was feeding him promises of a swift return and a mother put in her place. I circulated, a glass of sparkling water in my hand, exchanging pleasantries. I wore a simple, impeccably cut black sheath dress and my grandmother's diamonds. Armor. My phone, nestled in my clutch, was a live wire. David Braxton was on standby. Leo had a man outside. And on my burner phone, a single text thread was open. The last message, sent an hour ago. Be ready at 8:15. You don't have to say anything. Just be seen. The reply had been a single letter. K. At 8:00 p.m., Headmaster Thornton stepped up to the podium, tapping the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished alumni, friends of Westbrook, thank you for your incredible generosity tonight. Before we begin the live auction, I'd like to invite one of our most dedicated parents, a pillar of this community, and a member of our board of trustees, to say a few words about the future of our Leaders of Tomorrow mentorship program. Please welcome Alexander Carter. Polite applause. Alexander stood, straightening his tuxedo jacket with a practiced flourish. He took the podium, his smile expansive, confident, the lyre in his cathedral. Thank you, Headmaster. Good evening, everyone. It's always a privilege to be among friends. He launched into his speech, a smooth blend of humble brag and faux inspirational jargon about investment in character, ethical leadership, and the Westbrook family. He spoke of Liam, throwing a fond glance toward his table. Being a father is my greatest role, teaching our sons integrity, compassion, and respect, especially for women. Is the bedrock of everything. The hypocrisy was so thick it choked the air. I saw a few knowing smirks in the crowd. Rumors about the extended business trip and our separate arrivals had circulated. I stood near the back, by the main doors. I watched him, this man who had stolen my child and corrupted another, preach about integrity. My pulse was steady. My palms were dry. He was nearing his conclusion. And so, I urge you all to dig deep for our future leaders, because at Westbrook, we don't just educate students, we build. I began to walk. The click of my heels on the parquet floor was deliberate, measured, cutting through his oratory. Heads turned. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Alexander's eyes found me, tracking my progress down the center aisle. His smile didn't falter, but a flicker of irritation, then unease, crossed his face. He thought I was going to cause a scene, to drunkenly confront him maybe. He thought he could handle it. I reached the foot of the podium steps. He paused, leaning into the mic, his voice taking on a patronizing, conciliatory tone. And even my lovely wife, Ryan, is moved to join me. Sweetheart, did you want to add something about the arts initiative? The crowd tittered nervously. I didn't smile. I walked up the 3 steps until I was standing beside him at the podium. I was taller in my heels. I looked at him, then turned to face the room. I didn't touch the microphone. I didn't need to. The room had gone preternaturally quiet. Thank you, Alexander, I said, my voice clear and carrying in the hush. I do have something to add. I looked out at the sea of expectant, curious faces. Liam was staring, his mouth slightly open. Headmaster Thornton spoke of the Westbrook family. My husband just spoke of integrity, compassion, and respect for women. Powerful words. I turned my head slightly toward Alexander. Aren't they, Alex? His hand shot out, covering the microphone. His whisper was a venomous hiss only I could hear. What the hell are you doing? Get down. Now. I ignored him. I gently but firmly moved his hand from the mic. The sound of the scuffle was picked up and amplified to sharp thump and rustle. The crowd gasped. 13 years ago, I began, my voice still calm, conversational, as if discussing the weather. I gave birth at Northwestern Memorial. It was a difficult birth. I was told I had a son, a big, healthy boy. We named him Liam. I gestured toward my son's table. Liam's face was pale, his eyes wide. Recently, I happened to meet the obstetrician who delivered that baby, Dr. Edwin Wilson. He asked me a strange question. He asked how my daughter was doing. A ripple of confusion went through the room. I corrected him. Of course, but he was adamant. He was the surgeon. He remembered. A baby girl. Alexander made a grab for the mic. I stepped back, holding it just out of his reach. My husband assured me the doctor was old, confused, but I'm not a woman who tolerates confusion. I had questions, so I started looking for answers. I reached into my clutch and pulled out a small, wireless clicker. I aimed it at the large screen behind the podium, which had been displaying the Westbrook crest. With a click, it changed. The first image was a copy of a birth record from the Women's Wellness Center of Oak Brook. Chloe Benson, male infant, May 10th, 2013. A red circle highlighted the date and the name. This is the birth record of Chloe Benson's son, born 2 days before my recorded due date. Click. A series of financial statements appeared, showing the wire transfers from Alexander's accounts to one listed under Eleanor Benson. These are payments totaling over $75,000 from my husband to Chloe Benson's mother, following the birth of that child. Click. The deed to the Evanston condo. The LLC ownership traced to Alexander. This is a condo my husband purchased through a shell company. The primary tenant for 2 years was Chloe Benson. The room was utterly silent now, a frozen tableau of shock. Alexander stood rigid beside me, his face a mask of fury and terror. This is slander, he boomed. But without the mic, his voice was lost in the vast room. I clicked again. The screen now showed the DNA test report David had expedited. 2 columns, Liam Alexander Carter and Chloe Marie Benson. The conclusion at the bottom was highlighted in bold. Maternity confirmed 99.9%. A collective, sharp intake of breath. Whispers exploded. Liam shot to his feet, his chair scraping loudly. "What is this?" he shouted, his voice cracking. I clicked one last time. The screen split. On one side, The photo Leo had provided, Alexander, a younger Liam, and Chloe at the playground, smiling. On the other side, a clean, clear copy of the signed, notarized statement from Chloe Benson, detailing the baby swap, the role of the nurse, Melinda. The cold January night, she left a baby girl on the steps of the St. Catherine's Crisis Center. I turned the microphone toward my own mouth, my eyes finding Liam's across the room. "You're not my son, Liam. You are the son of Alexander Carter and Chloe Benson, the child I gave birth to. My daughter was left at a crisis center 13 years ago." My voice finally wavered, just once. With the magnitude of it, I studied it. She was found. She grew up in the system. She goes to this school. The whispers crescendoed into a roar. Head swiveled. "Who?" I pulled the burner phone from my clutch. I had already dialed. I put it on speaker and held it up to the mic. It rang once, twice. A girl's voice, clear and wary, answered. "Yeah, Isabella," I said, my eyes glued to Alexander's horrified face. "Can you hear me?" A pause. "I can hear you." Her voice, amplified, echoed through the ballroom. People recognized it. "The girl from the fight. I'm at the school gala. I've just told everyone the truth. Your truth. Would you be willing to say hello?" Another pause, longer this time. Then, "Hello, Isabella Martinez," I said to the room, my heart hammering now not with fear, but with a fierce, terrible pride. "My daughter." I clicked the clicker a final time. The screen changed to a live video feed from the prepaid phone I'd given her. It was a close-up of her face, those storm gray eyes looking directly into the camera, into the eyes of 300 stunned people. The resemblance, in that moment, was undeniable. The shape of the eyes, the set of the jaw. It was me, reflected in a younger, harder mirror. The room erupted, not in whispers, but in shouts, exclamations, the scrape of chairs. "You lying bitch." The scream didn't come from Alexander. It came from the ballroom doors. All heads swiveled. Chloe Benson stood there, disheveled, her face blotchy with tears and rage. She must have gotten the invitation Alexander had carelessly left at the condo. Or perhaps she'd been tipped off by the chaos on social media. The phones were out everywhere, recording. She pointed a shaking finger at Alexander. "You said it was foolproof. You said we'd be together. You promised." She then turned her fury on me. "And you think you're so high and mighty. He never loved you. It was always the money." Security guards, stunned into inaction until now, started moving toward her. The scene was pure, unfiltered chaos. Alexander looked from Chloe to the screen showing Isabella's frozen, defiant image, to the horrified faces of his peers, his clients, his potential investors. His empire of lies was collapsing in real time, in front of the only audience that ever mattered to him. Liam pushed his way through the crowd toward the podium, his face contorted with a betrayal so profound it bordered on madness. "Is this true?" He screamed at Alexander, ignoring me completely. "Dad, tell me it's not true." Alexander couldn't speak. He just stared, hollowed out. Liam then wheeled on me. "You did this. You're tearing our family apart." I looked down at him, this boy I had raised, and felt nothing but a distant, cold pity. "No, Liam, I'm just turning on the lights." I looked past him, to where Chloe was being restrained by security, still shrieking. "Your mother is here. I believe you know her." I stepped down from the podium, handing the microphone to a stunned Headmaster Thornton. The noise of the scandalized crowd was a wall of sound around me. I walked, not toward the exit, but through the parting crowd, my head high. My work here was done. The mask was not just cracked, it had been publicly, spectacularly shattered, and the monsters beneath were exposed for all to see. Michaels Braxton, attorneys at law. The silence in David Braxton's office was a stark contrast to the riotous noise of the gala. It was the quiet of cold, hard consequences, David sat behind his desk, a neat stack of documents before him. I sat opposite, the morning light harsh through the windows, exposing every detail of the new reality. The petition for divorce has been filed. David began, his voice a dry, precise instrument. Grounds: fraud, constructive abandonment, and irreconcilable differences. Given the evidence of the baby swap, which constitutes fraud on a monumental scale, and the evidence of a 13-year parallel relationship supported by marital funds, you are in an exceptionally strong position. We are seeking, and will almost certainly receive, a disproportionate division of all marital assets. Given that the majority of the significant assets were acquired with Carter family capital or held in your name or your trusts, disproportionate essentially means you keep nearly everything: the house, the cars, the investment portfolio. He will be entitled to a share of the increase in value of Carter Global Ventures during the marriage, but given its current trajectory, that may soon be a negative number. He slid a document toward me. This is a forensic accounting summary. Alexander systematically funneled approximately $2.8 million from joint accounts and business revenue into the Apex Holdings Shell Corporation over the past 13 years. We are demanding full restitution, with interest. His personal accounts are already frozen, pending the court's decision. I scanned the numbers. They were just figures on a page, a quantification of the theft. And the other matters? Criminal charges are trickier, but we've made the initial referral to the district attorney's office for conspiracy, fraud, and potential custodial interference. The signed confession from Chloe Benson is key. The DA is interested, but these are complex, old crimes. The primary leverage is the threat. It keeps him off balance and discourages him from a protracted, messy court battle. He knows if he fights you too hard, we push the criminal angle harder. David adjusted his glasses. As for the nurse, Melinda, the state nursing board has been notified. Her license is under immediate review. She won't be touching another patient. Good, I said, my voice flat. And Liam? David's expression softened. Just a fraction. Legally, you have no obligation. Paternity fraud of this magnitude typically severs any support obligation. Morally, that's your call. We've drafted 2 proposals. He slid 2 more folders across the desk. I opened the first. Option A. You petition for termination of parental rights. Citing fraud, child support ends immediately. He is a legal adult at 18, which is only 5 years away. You provide a one-time, lump sum severance to Chloe Benson for his care, with a legally binding agreement that she assumes full custody and financial responsibility, and that neither she nor Liam will make any further claims against you or your estate. I open the second. Option B. You offer to maintain financial support for his education and basic needs until age 21, contingent on his continued enrollment and satisfactory performance in school, mandatory counseling, and completion of substantial community service. In return, he issues a public apology for the bullying, supervised by us. This option includes a stricter non-disparagement clause. It is the more generous path. I closed both folders. I'll speak to him. One last time. The Carter residence. Later that day, the house felt like a museum of a lost civilization. Liam was in the living room, his things half-packed in duffel bags strewn across the floor. He was on the phone, his voice a frantic, angry whisper. She's trying to cut me off. Dad, you have to do something. What do you mean you can't? The accounts are frozen? Then use another one. No, I'm not going back to her. That's not my mom. He saw me and froze, then snarled into the phone. She's here. He hung up. He stood, facing me, quivering with rage and fear. Happy? You ruined everything. My life, Dad's life, everything. Your father ruined it. Liam, 13 years ago, I just turned on the lights. You humiliated us. In front of everyone. I'll never be able to go back to that school. That may be true, I said, walking to the mantel, calmly removing the large, smiling family photo and placing it face down. Your actions played a part in that. The bullying, the entitlement. You built a reputation. I just showed people the foundation it was built on. He took a step toward me, his fists clenched. You're not my mother. You never acted like a mother. You were just the warden. Chloe, she's my real mom. She loves me. She wants me. I felt a pang, not of hurt, but of a terrible, clear sadness. I'm sure she does. And you're going to have the chance to be with her. I picked up the 2 folders from the hall table where I'd left them. I have 2 proposals for you. Liam, your future. I don't want anything from you. You should listen. Your father has no money to give you right now. Everything is frozen. Chloe has no money. The payments have stopped. You have a choice. I held up the first folder. Option A. I give you and Chloe a one-time payment. Enough for a few months of rent in a modest apartment. Some basic necessities. After that, you're on your own. You're her responsibility. You'll likely need to transfer to a public school. You'll get a job. It will be hard. His bravado faltered. The prospect of actual poverty, of life without the buffer of wealth, dawned in his eyes for the first time. It was a terrifying concept. I held up the second folder. Option B. I pay for you to finish at a private boarding school, not Westbrook, but a decent one. I cover reasonable living expenses for you and Chloe until you're 21, provided you are in school or working toward a degree. In return, you issue a public apology for the bullying. You complete 300 hours of community service, and you attend weekly counseling. You also sign a binding agreement that you will not seek any further funds from me or my family, and you will not publicly disparage me or Isabella. He stared at the folders as if they were snakes. An apology to them? To that little freak, Isabella? She is your sister, I said, my voice icy. Half-sister. And the freak who has more integrity in her little finger than you've shown in your entire life. That's the deal. Liam, a clean break with some seed money, or a structured path with conditions. There is no third option where you stay here, spending my money while hating me. That's over. The full weight of his predicament crashed down on him. The anger melted into a panicked, childish pleading. You can't do this. You raised me. Doesn't that mean anything? 13 years. I looked at him, at the stranger wearing the face of the boy I'd thought was mine. It means I gave you 13 years of my life under a false premise. It means I was defrauded of the chance to raise my actual child. You knew, Liam, on some level, you always knew I wasn't your mother, and you treated me with the contempt you thought I deserved for not being her. Now you can go to her. The choice is simple. Take the money and your real mother, or take the conditions and a chance to become something other than what your father made you. Tears of furious frustration welled in his eyes. He was cornered, and he knew it. The entitled prince had no kingdom to rule. I hate you, he whispered, the words thick with venom. I know, I said, unmoved. So, what's it going to be? A or B? He glared at the folders, his chest heaving. The idea of apologizing, of submitting to conditions, of acknowledging any wrongdoing, was anathema to him. It was the one part of his father's legacy he couldn't relinquish, the absolute refusal to be held accountable. Give me the money. He spat. I want nothing from you. We'll be fine. You'll see. We don't need you. I nodded, a quiet finality settling in my soul. I placed the option A folder on the coffee table. The paperwork is inside. Sign it. Have Chloe sign it and return it to my lawyer. The funds will be transferred. You have 48 hours to remove your belongings from this house. After that, anything left will be donated. I turned and walked toward the stairs. You're a cold-hearted bitch. He screamed at my back, his voice breaking. I didn't turn around. Goodbye, Liam. A cafe near the children's residence. 1 week later, Isabella sat across from me in a booth. stirring a massive hot chocolate with whipped cream. She was wary, but the outright hostility was gone, replaced by a watchful curiosity. The scandal was all over the local news, though our names were kept out of the more salacious reports. The school was in an uproar. Liam and Chloe had signed the papers, taken the money, and vanished into a cheap apartment in a neighborhood Westbrook parents would never drive through. So he took the money and ran. She stated, not asked. He did. Idiot, she said, but there was no glee in it. It was a simple assessment. The money won't last. She'll blow through it. Then what? Then that's their life to figure out. She took a sip, eyeing me over the rim of the mug. And what about you? What do you want from me? Now that the big show is over. I took a breath. This was the most delicate part. I want to get to know you, if you're willing. No obligations, no expectations. You can say no, and the phone and the safety net, they're still yours. No strings. Why? The same. Loaded question. Because you're my daughter, I said, the word still feeling surreal and powerful on my tongue. And from what I've seen, you're brave, and you're loyal, and you're smarter than anyone gives you credit for. I missed 13 years of that. I'd like a chance, however small, to not miss the rest. She was quiet for a long time, studying the swirling chocolate in her mug. I'm not a project. I'm not a charity case you get to fix to make yourself feel better. I know. I'm not a hugging, baking cookies kind of mother. I'm precise. I'm strategic. I'm trying to be honest. We could start small. Maybe you let me help you with something you actually want. Not money. Something else. A better school? An art program? Legal help to navigate the system? You tell me what you need, and I'll see if I can make it happen. No pressure. You're in control. A flicker of interest. Quickly masked. Control, she repeated, testing the word. I could get used to that. She finally met my eyes. There's this charter school. Arts and technology focus. It's competitive. The application is a pain. And I'd need references. And a way to get there. It was a test. A practical, specific test. Not a demand for cash, but a request for access. For advocacy. Email me the details of the school and the application requirements. I said, a feeling that was almost like hope stirring in my chest. I'll have my assistant get the forms. We'll work on it together. And transportation is not a problem. She gave a single, slow nod. Okay, we'll see. It wasn't acceptance. It was a trial run. A ceasefire with the potential for negotiation. It was enough. It was more than I had yesterday. The war with Alexander and Liam was over, ending in a scorched earth victory. Now, the much more fragile, much more important work of building something new had just begun, with a stubborn, fierce girl who held all the power, and for the first time in 13 years, the future felt like my own. Lincoln Park penthouse. 6 months later, the space was no longer the Carter residence. It was simply the apartment. My apartment. The lawyers had been thorough, swift, and brutal. The divorce was finalized. The financial disentanglement complete. Alexander had walked away with little more than the clothes on his back and a mountain of legal debt. Carter Global Ventures, stripped of its illusions and my family's silent backing, had collapsed under the weight of its own bad deals and the exodus of terrified investors. The last I'd heard from David. Alexander was sharing a one-bedroom in a dreary suburb with Chloe, trying to land a mid-level management job at a firm that hadn't yet Googled him. He was a ghost in my world. Liam was a different kind of ghost. He'd transferred to a large, struggling public school. Rumor had it he was having a hard time. The golden aura of Westbrook and his father's money was gone. The sneakers weren't the latest. The attitude that had once been backed by power was now just attitude. And it wasn't playing well. Chloe had, predictably, blown through the severance money. I didn't know the details, and I made sure my lawyers ensured I never needed to. The door was closed, the lock bolted. Any pity I might have felt had been cauterized by the memory of his choice. and his venomous "I hate you" echoing in a hollowed-out house. The apartment was different. I'd sold the townhouse, its rooms too heavy with ghosts. I'd bought a penthouse in a new building near the lake. The design was mine. Clean lines, open spaces, walls of glass offering a relentless, beautiful view of the Chicago skyline. It was a fortress and an observatory. It held no memories, only potential. The doorbell rang. The chime soft and electronic. I checked the monitor. Isabella stood in the hallway, a battered backpack slung over one shoulder. She was looking at the camera, her expression its usual blend of caution and assessment. I buzzed her in, listening to the distant ping of the elevator. When the doors opened on my floor, she stepped out, stopping just inside the foyer. Her eyes took in the high ceiling, the vast windows, the sparse, expensive furniture. She didn't look impressed. She looked analytical, like a scout surveying new territory. "It's big," she said finally, her voice neutral. "It's quiet," I replied, "and the light is good. Come in. You can leave your bag anywhere." She followed me into the main living area, her gaze lingering on the art.bold, abstract pieces, nothing sentimental. She stopped in front of the largest window, looking out at the grid of city lights beginning to glow in the dusk. "You can see everything from up here." "You can," I agreed, coming to stand beside her. "Sometimes that's useful." She glanced at me. "And the other times?" "The other times, it's just a view." I nodded toward the kitchen. "I made lasagna from a box, mostly. My culinary skills are tactical, not artistic." A faint, almost imperceptible smile touched her lips. "Tactical is good. I'm starving." She shrugged off her backpack, leaving it by the sofa. A small act of trust. Over dinner at the massive concrete island, we talked. The conversation was stilted at first, navigating around the canyons of our separate pasts. We didn't talk about Alexander, or Liam, or Chloe. We talked about the lasagna edible, about her new school, the Chicago Arts Tech Academy. The application was a pain, she said, twirling pasta on her fork. "Like you said, but the essay question was okay. Describe a system you had to navigate, and how it changed you." I had a lot of material. "I bet you did." "And the interview?" She shrugged. "The lady kept asking about adversity and resilience, like they were check boxes." I told her adversity is just life with the volume turned up. Resilience is what you do while it's screaming at you. I think she liked that. Or she was scared. Not sure which. I hid a smile behind my wine glass. "You got in." "So she liked it." "Yeah, I got in." There was a quiet pride in her voice, quickly masked. "The bus ride is long, but the kids there, they're weird. But it's a good weird. They care about stuff. Projects. Not just who's wearing what." That sounds ideal. It was a vast understatement for a girl who'd spent her life in institutions. A school full of passionate, focused outsiders was a sanctuary. After dinner, she wandered the apartment again. She paused in front of a closed door. "What's in here?" "Open it." She did. It was a bedroom, not a guest room. A bedroom that was unmistakably meant for a teenager, but unlike any she'd ever seen. The walls were a soft, warm gray. There was a massive drafting table under the window, covered in high-quality pencils, markers, and a brand new, powerful laptop. A set of locked glass cabinets held shelves empty, waiting for whatever she might want to put in them. The bed was a large platform, the linen simple and high thread count. There were no frills, no pink, no childish decor. It was a room that said, "Work here, rest here, be yourself here." IT was a room designed by someone who observed, but did not presume. Isabella stood in the doorway, not moving. Her back was to me, so I couldn't see her face. Her shoulders were rigid. "It's yours," I said, my voice quiet in the hall. "If you want it." The door locks from the inside. The window opens. It's not an obligation. It's an option. The residence knows. The paperwork is flexible. You can stay there. You can stay here. You can do both. No schedule. No rules. Except the ones we negotiate. She was silent for a long time. Then, without turning, she asked, "Why did you get the drafting table?" "Because you're good with your hands. You see spatial relationships. The way you handled those kids at the community center. Organizing the painting, it's a skill. It could be a talent. I thought you might want to explore it. Or not. The table can be for homework." She finally turned. Her eyes were bright, but dry. Her jaw was set. "I don't need you to buy me things." "I know you don't. I'm not buying you. I'm providing tools. There's a difference. You can accept the tools, or you can leave them in the box. It's your call." She walked into the room, running her fingers lightly over the smooth surface of the drafting table. She looked at the empty shelves, the empty closet. It was a void, waiting to be filled. A terrifying, exhilarating kind of freedom. "Okay," she said, the word barely a whisper. Then, clearer, "Okay, I'll think about it. That's all I ask." We ended up back in the living room as full dark fell, the city a jeweled tapestry below us. We didn't talk much. She pulled out a textbook and started on homework. I worked on design schematics on my tablet. The silence was companionable, a new and fragile thing. Later, as she was preparing to leave, back to the residence for the night, a boundary she kept. She stood again at the window. Down on the street, far below, a figure stumbled out of a bar. Even from this height, the shape of the coat, the slump of the shoulders, it was unmistakably Alexander. He looked small, broken, and very drunk. He fumbled for his keys, dropped them, and staggered against a lamppost. Isabella saw him too. She didn't say anything. She just watched, her face impassive. I came to stand beside her. We watched together as the man who had tried to orchestrate both our lives struggled to find his keys in a gutter. Isabella finally spoke, her voice cool and clear in the quiet room. "So," she said, "we won." I looked at her profile, lit by the city's glow. "The first battle." I said, "Maybe." She nodded slowly, her eyes still on the tiny, pathetic figure below. "What's next?" It was the question, the one that held everything: the past, the present, the uneasy alliance, the uncertain future. I felt the weight of it, and the strange, quiet lightness of possibility. "I don't know," I said honestly. I looked from the cityscape to her. "What do you want to be next?" She finally turned from the window, meeting my gaze. The defensive wall was down, just for a moment. In its place was a sharp, probing curiosity, and a dawning, formidable sense of her own agency. "I'll think about it," she said, echoing her words about the room. A small, genuine smirk touched her lips. "We've got time to figure it out." "Yes," I said, a real, unforced smile finally reaching my own eyes. "I suppose we do." She shouldered her backpack, gave the room that her room point one last lingering look, and headed for the elevator. The doors closed softly behind her. I was alone again, in the quiet, bright space, but the silence felt different now. It wasn't empty. It was waiting. I looked out at the endless, glittering city, no longer a panorama of what I had lost, but a map of what might come next. The game was over. The life, our life, was just beginning, and for the first time in 13 years, I had no idea what would happen next, and the uncertainty felt like freedom.